If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard anywhere Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to start.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Open Season. Today we have a special guest, real good friend of mine, more of a familia, if you know what I'm talking about, for all those Ram fans out there. Um, Name goes by Mikey. I know him as Mikey, but he's more of a Ram bro to me. And this episode started off because of one of his posts he posted. Before I even get into that, welcome to the podcast, Mikey.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you reaching out to me, man. I'm excited.
Hey man, I've seen you always put um some amazing posts on Facebook, and this one actually like attracted me to you because you're right. Everything that you said on that post, it's so damn right. What made you even think about it? We'll read it in a little bit, but what made you think about that post?
So, I mean, obviously, we're dealing with the death of DMX, who's an icon. I think, especially if you're, late '80s, early '90s kid, you grew up with the guy. You know what I'm saying? He was in every song on the radio. He was in movies that we grew up with. So when I started reading these posts about him dying, I started seeing a lot of people were saying, well, he looked like he was fully recovered. He didn't look like he was on drugs at this moment. And so it kind
Right,
of bothered me, man. It really did bother me reading that a lot.
right,
You know, being someone who was just recovering, I'm sure you'll read the post right now, but it kind of resonated with me, and it just started kind of just pulling up feelings. So and it led me to write that post.
right. So let me get into the post. So give me a second. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
Oh, what? And this is what it says, and I'll read it straight from his Facebook. So those of you that don't have him on Facebook, I'll screenshot it and I'll post it up on our page. But this is what he wrote. I see a lot of people saying, well, he didn't look like he was on drugs when talking about DMX. To that, I asked, what does a drug addict look like to you? Because I work a full-time job, come home to a loving wife, and see my parents, and seem normal. We're not all walking around with scrubs on our face or scratching our necks. Some of us are athletes, lawyers, doctors, professionals, and shoot, some of us are Christians. A lot of us are celebrities, or a lot of us are celebrating years and years of sobriety. Some are just trying to make it to Friday. Some of us seem happy, some of us seem sad, but I promise you, all of us are fighting or have fought our lives. I'm just saying because someone can look healthy or fine doesn't mean they aren't an addict. If you're reading this, which I am, and you're struggling with addiction and you've been good at hiding it and just want to say it to someone, let me know. I got you.
Yeah.
I know how suffering in silence feels. I feel for you. My name is Mikey, and I'm an addict.
Yes, sir.
That probably hit so many people out there that I'm pretty sure if this would have been like out in the public, you would have gotten bigger reaction than what you did right now. And but even those that didn't comment or like anything probably saw it and they're probably talking to themselves right now like, shit,
Yeah.
he's right.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell do I know like he's not suffering through something? And when I read this, I was like, you know what? It doesn't really have to do with drugs. We don't know how people are feeling. Like
Exactly.
I go to work every day and people don't know that I'm fighting anxiety and depression.
Exactly. Yeah.
Previous episodes, people don't know that my cousin was fighting anxiety and depression also. I didn't know. And we talked on a basis.
Right. I
So
I think that
go
there's
ahead.
this misconception, especially in the Hispanic culture, that you're weak if you talk about that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the post has actually been very interesting in the responses I've been getting inside my DMs. I've had people ask me, "Hey, are you okay?" You know, which is cool, and I appreciate that. That
Right.
wasn't my intention of my post. You know, I'm in a place in my life right now where I have been sober for a good amount of time. But I also I'm trying to reach out to somebody else who's been where I was and stuff like that. So I'm I essentially trying to break that misconception that you're weak if you're asking for help, and it's really not even asking for help. Some people just want somebody to talk to, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And that's one reason that this, like I said it on multiple episodes, that's one reason this podcast was made.
right,
Because like myself, I've always needed somebody to talk to what I'm going through,
yeah,
and I've never had anybody.
right,
And people are coming up to me, it's like, "Hey, you think I can talk about this?"
wow,
It's an open mic. You can
yeah,
talk about anything. You can be confidential. You really don't have to say who you are and who you're talking about. Just let it out, because
right,
as soon as you let it out, you'll be at peace. And then seeing that post, and I'm pretty sure people are hitting you up saying, "Are you okay?" But hey, maybe they're the ones asking for help
exactly.
by asking you.
Yeah, it opens up a conversation, and because also what I'm trying to get at that post is, for there's a misconception about what a drug addict looks like as well.
Right.
And there's also a misconception of what people who are depressed look like, or people with anxiety, that they look like they're just in this dark place. Man, I've been to work with a smile on my face. I've been to family functions with a smile on my face. And I'm a bigger guy, so I don't look all sucked up, and I don't look like that I you would think that I was an addict. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
so it was good to kind of just like have people like, hey, you know what, like I've been feeling this way for a while. I don't have anybody to talk to, but thank you for your post. And and it's not a teaching moment either. It's not for me to be like, oh well, you should do this and you should do that. It's a, hey man, I feel you, bro. Or I feel you, sis. Like whatever it is, I just know that you're not alone. You know what I'm saying? You're not the
Yeah.
only one going through this. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of us out there. And also a lot of us can't afford therapy, bro. So what you're doing right here is dope. It's highly appreciative. You know what I'm saying? This could be the therapy that some people can't afford to go to. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's helped me. Like it's helped me keep my mind busy.
Right.
Because I would just sit here sometimes and just ball out,
Right. Yeah.
go to sleep, wake up, go to work, come back home, and do the same
Yep.
thing. So
Repetitive.
it's I did it so it can help me, but I'm sure there's other people out there like,
Of course. Yeah.
should I even call?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
What people are gonna think about me? Like I tell people, it doesn't matter what they think
right.
about you. No one's gonna judge you here. The only person that's gonna judge you is yourself,
Right.
and it's just you and me talking.
Yep.
Don't give a damn about anybody else. If they give me messages saying, "Oh, they should have done this," no, 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 you're not gonna hear it.
Right. Right.
At the end of the day, you're opening up, you're letting loose,
Yep.
you're getting all that
You're getting it out.
stuff that you have in your chest, you're getting it out, and you're gonna feel tomorrow like if it was a fresh new day,
Yeah.
new start.
Yeah, man. You said something right now. You're like, I went home, I bawled, and it was those moments that I had. I was essentially my addiction came from depression. It came from how figuring out how to deal with my depression, not understanding
Right,
in the first place that it was depression. So I turned to drugs, man. I was doing mad drugs, bro. I was doing, when my wife was gone, I'd be doing drugs. We're doing drugs at work. You know what I'm saying? Like just to kind of stay somewhat happy. You know what I'm saying? There'd be nights where I go through an A-ball one night and, I'm thinking like I'm going to die, bro. Like but I was like, it's the only thing that could take away the pain other than
right,
crying and just sitting there and being a mess. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it felt good until you realize like it only made it worse. Like the depression that adds on from doing drugs is like 100 times worse, and it freaking was just killing me, bro. Like and I have a wife, I have a family I'm trying to build, and I didn't realize how much I was hurting them. You know what I'm saying? And but through that,
yeah,
I didn't realize how much I was hurting myself, and that temporary, it's kind of cliche when people say, oh, it's a temporary escape. Like it really was an escape though. It made me
Yeah.
feel a certain way for a certain amount of time. But the temporary part was all caps, bro. It was like all cap locked, super temporary. Because the next day I would feel, a lot worse than I should have. And I'm gonna share something right here, man, that I haven't really shared to not a lot of people. Only me and my wife, and maybe two other people know this. But about a year ago, last month, I went on a binge, and I was doing a lot of drugs, man. I was doing a lot of drugs, and I was just really depressed. I was ashamed of myself. I felt gross, bro. I felt stupid. How could I do this? Um, so I put a belt around my neck, man, and I tied it to we had these like stalls in our kitchen, like it's like a pillar, and I tied it to that. It's like 4 a.m. I tied it to that, and I try to kill myself. Um, I let my body weight go down. I started to choke. My wife, who was in the other room, usually she's knocked out around this time. She comes out because she thought she heard something weird, and she had to find me like that. And she cut the belt. Essentially, she saved my life in that moment. But I can't imagine the trauma that I put her through to have to see something like that. And
Right.
that's something that me and her are still dealing with in our own therapy and our own, so that's how dark it got, bro. It got really dark. It got really depressing. But I won't take that back and the only reason I would take that back is so I wouldn't put my wife through that again. But it
Right.
changed me, man, because it made me realize that I do want to enjoy tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like tomorrow, like is been so much fun. Tomorrow's been so much life. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to move out here. It's like a fresh new start, and I know things follow you, and that's stuff that I still deal with. But I was able to experience tomorrow when a lot of people don't, man. They don't have somebody to cut that bout for them. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and again, man, I went to work the next day normal. You know what I'm saying? So I can't imagine the people who are also doing the same thing, man, and they look normal. You just don't know what's going on at home.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I that's the first time I'm sharing this out loud. So thank you. It feels good to say it out loud, actually.
Uh, yeah. I'm speechless right now because um it's crazy because I think I was in the same boat as
Wow.
you on the 31st, going to the first. Mostly it was on the first of this year
Yeah.
already, but um mine was I was driving. I was done with a New Year's party and everything, and I had to be at work at 5:30 in the morning. So it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drive to work, take a nap, wake up, and everything. But on my way to work, anxiety kicked in, depression kicked in, and it was to one of those points that I decided to take the long way home, well, to work. And I was going through all these canyons, and I'm driving an SUV, a 2011 Ford Edge.
Yeah.
I'm going over 90 to 100 miles per hour on the
Wow.
canyon on an SUV. And I don't know if I said the whole story on my earlier podcast, but it was one of those points that I was just like, you know what? The hell with this.
Wow.
I'm the next clip that comes up. I'm just going face first, calling it quits. And the only thing that saved me, it's that I have a keychain with my family in it,
Wow.
and that keychain hit my lap.
Oof.
So when that keychain hit my lap, I turned on the light and I looked down and I saw my
Oh,
kids. As soon as I saw my kids, I slammed the brakes and I was like, I gotta go to work.
damn, man. Like,
And ever since that day, my head still I'm still reliving that night, but it's one of those like, you know what?
right.
I get to see my kids
Uh-huh.
now. Now I just gotta push and fight for them. And after doing this podcast, it's one of those like little by little I'm opening up because I still haven't opened up to anyone.
Right.
Like this is probably the first time I even say the full
Wow.
story. Only one, like you said, only one other person knows it. But other than that, it's just, hey, there's my little
Wow,
suicidal.
man. I got goosebumps, bro. It's just, you just never know, man. And I think Instagram and Facebook, they give that facade of everybody's happy.
Yeah,
And you post the highlights and you post the things that are good, but everybody's dealing with something, man. You never know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, if I were to just scroll by your page, I see you, you look happy, you're doing things, you know what I'm saying? But I would never know this, unless we talked. So I
right.
can't imagine anybody. And you know what? I appreciate that we are able to talk about this. And I feel for the people who are still afraid to say these things out loud. Because
Yeah,
I know that has to hurt. I know that has to bottle that up, and so like I said in my post, man. If anybody just wants to say it to somebody, even a complete stranger, I'm all here for it, man. Because it feels good and it's freeing to say it out loud.
yeah. Like I've like I said, this is probably like the first time that I ever say it besides the one person that knows
Yeah,
about it. And I'll be honest with you, it
it
feels
feels
good.
good, huh? Yeah, yeah. It's like a win.
It just I feel relief right now. Like I can actually go get me a bottle of water and drink that and be like, oh
Yeah, yeah,
shit. What else can I say right now? But it was
yeah.
tough.
I bet.
It was tough to say it, but I said it.
Yeah, and it in
And
that day, man. I'm curious to know what that day felt like for you, because for me, it was like, not only do you feel shame, you feel kind of dumb. I know I did, but like you're tired. You're just like, oh my god, like the emotional like stress that it puts on yourself that day. I couldn't even
yeah,
look at my wife's eyes for a while. You know what I'm saying? Because I just felt so ashamed. But to know that she still loves me, and what I could have done could have traumatized her far surpassed what she already went through. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I
right.
can't imagine that. I'm so grateful that she's we're getting through that now. But how did you feel like that day?
I actually got home. Well, I keep saying home like if I was going to home. I actually got to
Yeah.
work. Went up to like the fourth level in the parking lot, put my seat down, took a nap for like a good hour maybe because I think that's all I had left. I woke up and then I just literally went on my day. I didn't
Uh,
reminisce or anything until I got home. Literally when I got home, or no, on my way home, I called. I called somebody that I told the story about it, and then I just started bawling out.
uh,
Like, and it's crazy because when I was telling the person the story, I was about to cry
wow.
because I started
Oh my
crying so much I couldn't see. And I I said, you know what? I'm gonna call you later,
God. Right.
and if I don't call you, just
Right.
text me to let me know that, so I can let you know, like, hey, look, I'm at
I'm
home, I'm
good.
cool, don't trip. Just text
Right.
me. And I, like I've been dealing through it since, like I said, the 1st of January till today that I
Wow.
actually said it,
Wow, man. Um.
and it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. It's it's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, and it's not funny, but it's funny that I put myself through that. You know what I'm saying? I put,
Yeah,
I made the choice to go along, you know what I'm saying? Because through the process, I don't know if anybody has ever attempted it before, but obviously my mind was a little, off, but I knew what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? I was super high, but I knew what I was doing. I knew what the consequences were, and I
right.
knew that I wouldn't be, here tomorrow if I did go along with this, and which I did. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe, my wife wasn't even supposed to be there that night. She was actually going to stay with her parents that night. She was going to go over, and she actually came back home, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's like little things like that happen for a reason. And she was there, and she, you know what I'm saying? But I can't, like, I can't let go of like the shame that I had that day. You know what I mean? It was just very like I don't ever want to feel that way again, and I think that's probably a life saving thing for me too. Is I don't want to feel stupid again. You know, like for even thinking that. You know.
Yeah, it was tough. Like even every day now, it's just as soon as I wake up, the first thing I do is I look at that keychain with
Right.
my kids,
Right.
and then I'll be like, all right, let's start the day fighting for them.
Right.
Let's go.
And I'm sorry. I don't know if that may have sounded insensitive. I'm not saying people who are attempting are stupid. I'm just saying I felt
Nah, I
I
get what you
felt
mean.
that way for myself. You know, it was yeah. So but again, if anybody is listening to this and is going through that, man, like you know, I'm sure you're gonna post our information on there, and you know, I know I'm a random stranger, but if you feel like you gotta reach out to somebody, hey, you know, I'll listen because
Yeah,
I wish I had somebody. You know, I have people I'm close to and that I can open up to. But there's something like good about a stranger, you know, or not even a stranger, somebody you kind of know and you open up to. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And it's like I said, this is the
Yeah.
reason I made it because you can tell anything and anything in your life to somebody that doesn't know your
Right.
whole life, and they're not
Right.
gonna judge you. They're gonna actually pay
Right.
attention.
Yeah.
They're actually gonna listen to you because they want to know
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
you. Even though it's something that you're not proud of, we're gonna
Exactly.
listen.
Yeah.
Maybe we haven't been through it. Obviously, you and me
Right.
have been through it, but let's say we haven't been through it. It's gonna be one of those like, dude, you should have called me
Right.
earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. No, 100%. And I'm glad that I think the world has shifted into where people are paying attention to mental health and what depression looks like because like I said, growing up, if you were crying or you were like hurt, like you were just weak. You know, it's like we're in a baby, you know what I'm saying? Get together. I'll give you a
Yeah,
reason to cry. I'm
yeah,
like, what? You know, like not knowing how to deal with my emotions and my life trauma that brought me to this place. And, you know, I think everybody still needs to try to figure out what's causing them that trauma. You know, I know for me, I have a lot of issues with my mom growing up, who was also a drug addict. So fall far from the tree, you know what I'm saying? And it's
yep,
like those things get passed. I'm a strong believer that like those like generational curses and those things get passed along. And you know, I know people are like, you know, the product of your environment doesn't make sense. It's just be who you are. But no, like if you're a baby and you have heroin in your system when you're born, you know what I'm saying? Like percent normal. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna like I
right,
remember like taking pain pills as a kid. I'm like, this is not doing nothing for me. You know, my tolerance was on a different level. You know, so going through high school, I'm like,
right.
you know, eating Vicodin like they were Tic Tacs. You know, and you know, and then I started, you know, I started doing coke, and I think what also hurt too is that it was so normalized. And I make the mistake of sometimes of trying to normalize it with my wife and to act like it was, you know, not that big of a deal. But when it really was, when you're doing as much as I was doing on a Tuesday night, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
problem. You know, that's a real issue,
yeah.
and it stems from something. You know, I think people get mad at people with addiction and say, "Well, you're choosing to do those drugs." Like it comes from something. It comes from something deep inside them that is hurting them. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I, you know, and with going back to that post, again, I don't look like your normal drug addict. You know what I'm saying? So how could somebody ask me if I'm okay if they don't? You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, I look like I just smoke a lot of weed. I look like I eat a lot. You know what I'm saying? I do not look like a cokehead. You know what I'm saying? Or what you would think a coke addict looks like. You know what I'm saying? Um, you
Exactly.
know, so there might be somebody in your life that is very good at hiding that. You know what I'm saying? And there's some signs that you know my wife had to learn, and you know, everybody's different, but I would encourage to look at people in your life who are probably depressed, probably dealing with anxiety, and try to figure out like what are their triggers and are they possibly an addict or you know are they possibly going through something deeper than addiction, like anxiety, depression, and all that.
Yeah, it's crazy because nobody knows what anybody's
Exactly.
going through
Exactly.
unless we
Yeah.
speak up or even try to ask like, hey,
Yeah.
you good?
Yeah.
And go sit down real quick. Let's go get a coffee because people are scared of
Yeah.
even doing that
Yeah.
now. It's like, oh, what did he
Right.
find out?
Right. Like.
What does he know about me? Like,
So yeah.
I I just want to go get a coffee. Like,
Yeah.
now if you want to talk, then we talk. But other than that, let's
Right.
get out of here.
Like let's get away.
'Cause-
Uh,
yeah, because from my point of view, we know that something's
right.
going on. We're not gonna
Right.
bring it up because we're dealing with it, but at least we can get you out of that little circle that you're in, that little box that you're in, and take you out and be like, hey, there's another world
Right.
out here. Right now, we're just gonna start with coffee. Maybe tomorrow we'll start with something else.
And
Like,
coffee goes a long way, man. Coffee goes a long way. There's a lot of healing in coffee, in a cup of coffee.
unless you have anxiety, then don't
Yeah,
drink
you're right.
coffee.
You're right. Maybe decaf.
If you have anxiety, do
Yeah,
not drink
maybe
coffee because
decaf.
I just literally went cold turkey on coffee and I didn't even know that.
Wow.
I had no idea coffee was
Wow.
doing it to me. So I went from coffee to I started drinking
Okay.
matcha teas now.
And how's that been for you?
It's a nice
Yeah.
cleanser, I'll tell you that. I didn't know matcha
Oh
was a
wow. I
cleanser.
gotta check that out, man. I'm barely realizing the anxiety in my life. We're reading a thing
Right.
about generalized anxiety disorder, and like I check every little thing on that. My wife was reading it, like all the like symptoms of what falls under that, and I check every
Right.
dot on that. It's worrying about death and worry about little things throughout the week. I'm saying generalized anxiety, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Jesus, that's me. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Now let me figure out how to deal with this. Before it gets worse.
Yeah.
Stay away from coffee. I live in
Stay away
Seattle
from
now,
coffee
bro. So
because it triggers it.
that's a hard thing to do, man.
It triggers the crap out of it.
Okay,
Stay
that's
away
good
from
to know, man. I
Yeah, anything that's coffee,
caffeine.
any no, because you can
Yeah.
drink a Coke and it's not gonna do anything to you. But like if you're drinking like a
Oh
Monster or
yeah,
Red
yeah,
Bull or anything that has an energy
yeah.
drink on it, oh
Yeah,
no.
I had to cut those out, man. One, it wasn't helping that I would go on like 3-day Coke binges and then drink a Monster, and then my heart's
Oh
like
shit.
ready to just hop up on my chest. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I gotta not do this. It was funny, man. I always call myself like a conscious cokehead because I'd be like, all right, this is not good. Like for my heart, my Apple Watch would be like, yo, your heart rate is at this. I'd be like, all right, breathe. It's it's a way to function. And I'm like, I don't want to die, but I still want to keep doing this. But yeah, I was trying to be conscious of that.
Are, are you sure it was the energy drinks and it wasn't the
Ray,
Rams
that too,
games?
man. That'll do that. That'll for a while, it's like those are the things that'll just blood pressure through the roof.
I couldn't watch half of the games last year because it'll just
Oh
piss me
yeah,
off sometimes.
and
Like,
you're
nope, I'm
just
done. I'm
you're
officially done
mad the whole
today. Like,
day, and
nope.
just like, what's wrong with you? It's like the Rams lost. It's like, oh, okay, I thought it was an episode. It's like triggers, huh? So learning how to stay away from coffee and full football games right now.
Exactly. Well, this
Yeah,
season will be
yeah,
way better, so we're not gonna have to
yeah,
deal with none of that.
exactly. Hopefully. You know what? I
Thank you, thank you,
right.
Jared Goff. Thank you for all those.
Bye. I said
What were
I
you
do
gonna
want to
say?
bring up something that is kind of like big for me, and I hope this helps somebody else out too. Is when you open up to somebody about depression, anxiety, addiction, be prepared to not get the response that you're expecting. You know what I'm saying? Because you
Right.
can put that on somebody, and somebody may not know how to deal with that, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's not somebody's job to figure out how to deal with it, but it might surprise you how people respond, and it might disappoint you, and it might trigger something ongoing. So it might not
Yeah.
just be one person to open up to. You know what I'm saying? And I find it some of the closest people that you are close to are the ones that'll probably disappoint you, but it's mostly because they are trying to process what you just told them as well. You know what I'm saying? So I think if anybody is going through anything like this, like, keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? Keep it, you know, as you're opening up to for a little bit of disappointment. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's something that I wish somebody would have told me. You know what I'm saying? Because I did. You know, I would open up to somebody and they're like, "Whoa, yeah," like, "Oh, like I can't expect them to know what to do." You know. So,
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's important to know. You know.
Yeah, and you don't know what somebody else is
Yeah.
gonna tell you.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, "Ah, you're
Yeah.
just being
Exactly.
full of yourself."
Yeah.
Like,
You're
what? Like,
right.
seriously? Like, hello? I'm literally asking for
What's
help.
that Kevin Hart? That Kevin Hart? Help
Literally.
me! Help me!
Exactly. It's like, but some people won't see it, or people won't even see the
Right.
signs when you post something on Facebook or on Instagram. You might put like some cringy ass quote. You'd be like, okay, cool.
Right.
I don't get it, but
Like,
all
oh,
right. Like
that's deep.
that's somebody
Yeah.
asking for help.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
deep. That's poetic. That's cool. But it's like, nah, bro. I'm like asking for help. You know what I'm saying? So,
Like, call me,
yeah,
text me. This is my call
exactly.
sign.
And it's not weird if you reach out to somebody and say, hey, are you okay? Like, you don't feel like you're gonna be weird, or and for you may barely know them from Facebook, but like if you see a sign like that and you reach out to them, like, that's good. Like, don't feel like you're gonna be weird or judged for asking somebody if they're okay. You know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Just find someone to
yeah,
someone.
yeah. You know, and again, I think it's good to start at home too, because you never know who's at home who's just doesn't want to talk about it. You know, but those are the people that probably need your help the most.
Yeah. One thing I started doing, like I, I'm I'm a big old thick head. Like I can't open up to anybody. It's hard for me to
Right.
open up. I started writing a journal. That's where I open up. And as soon as I can open up
Yeah.
there and like actually let everything out, it's like, okay, I'm somewhat of relief right now. Let me talk to somebody.
Right.
And then I start texting someone or I'll start calling somebody and be like, hey, I'm gonna read something to you. But now I'm reading it to you. But at the same time, it's like I try to get away from the journal and I start telling you what I'm going through and be like, oh, okay, see, now I
Right.
opened.
Right. Yeah.
So write it down, put it on a notepad. Half of people in this world have
Right.
iPhones now. Open your notepad on your
Notes.
iPhone
Yep.
or on
Yep.
your Android. Yeah. Just write it down there.
Mm-hmm. 100.
Go from there.
100%.
And if you don't want to read it or anything, send it to someone.
Yeah. I think
Don't.
I think that was my not a mistake on my end, but so I grew up writing music, and I grew up in the battle rap scene and poetry and all that stuff. So I would put mine in I would write music, I would write poetry, and then I would post
Right.
it with almost like this intent of like, hey, I'm going through it, and people would be like, oh, yo, that was dope, or like, yo, bars, like I'm like,
Six bars,
yeah, and I'm
bro.
like,
6 bars.
and every now and then you get somebody like, hey, man, that was a little dark, you good? So like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that, it was a healthy way for me to write it out, but maybe that wasn't the best, like call for help. You know what I'm saying? It's like it could
Yeah.
get lost in the translation of like, okay, he's just writing something deep.
Yeah. Except those that would ask you is like, hey, that was dark and everything. Those are the ones that pick up on the
Right?
signs.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10 they've gone through it themselves, and I think that's
Yeah.
why like when people and when people like DMX when they pass away, it was like, oh, now you know what I'm saying, but it's like a lot of us grew up with him, and he wrote a song, "Slippin," which is one of his most famous songs. It's super fucking emotional, and I remember hearing that as a kid. Like, it got me through some things. It was like super helpful in a time of my life, and even when I was going through some stuff, I would play it, and it would like break me down. But I'm like, imagine how many
Right.
people around him when he was recording that are like, yo, this is dope. But it's like, yo, he's actually crying for help. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like if you guys were in the studio with him, you probably should have asked how he was doing. And he, you know, and I think it gets lost in an art. Yeah,
Translation. Yeah. It got lost in translation because everybody thought it was a dope ass song.
exactly. You know, and it's like, and it happens more than usual. Like you know, when I was actually going through what I was going through with that guy, Juice World. I
Right.
didn't ever listen to him, and then when he died, they were playing his music. I was like, oh, yeah, he's actually pretty dope. And I started listening to his music. Super depressing. Like, it's dope, but it's super like, yo, he's like saying like, yo, I'm gonna die soon. Like, and it's because of drugs. You know, it's because of depression and drugs. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how many people were hyping him up to be like, yo, yeah, write that, you know, record that. But it's like, yo, if you're his homie, like, you got to talk to him. You know, so it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. You can never like really know what the calling for help looks like. You know.
Yeah. No, nobody will ever know when you're asking for help, even though you're asking for help.
Yeah. And man, it's crazy to me. But I think it's dope that you're doing something like this, and I think, you know, I hope it opens up a million doors for you as far as people coming and possibly, you know, talking out their feelings. And, you know, it's been.
Yeah.
I'm loving this, bro. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels good, man. I feel free. You know what I'm saying? And so thank
Yeah.
you, man.
Uh, I can say you're welcome, but I could also say thank you for
Yeah,
coming on.
yeah,
Like, because if you wouldn't have came on and we're talking about this, I probably would have never said what
right.
I said.
Yeah, you never know, man. You never know, and you know, I really want people to talk about mental health more, and I'm like I said, I didn't really know about the podcast until you had brought it up, and you know, I listened to more
Right.
on the way, you know, to work, and I think it was, I don't know if it was your cousin,
The
yeah,
anxiety and
yeah.
depression one.
I
Yeah,
said
that's my
Facebook. I was
cousin.
just like, man, this is what's needed. You know, so I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts. I listen to a lot of like other podcasts, but I'm like, nobody's really talking about this kind of stuff, especially men. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially growing
Yeah.
about their feelings. Like, so this is just, it's amazing, dude.
Yeah, and it's all that. It's basically all pride on men.
Yeah,
Like they don't want to let anybody know that.
yeah,
Hey, I'm a little girl in the closet.
right. Yeah, it's like,
Like, dude, just
just come
come
on.
out. We
Yeah,
all
hey,
cry. We all cry.
dude. I worry about people who don't cry. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
feel like that leads to a lot worse things. Like I think crying is like his one of like the most like it just what is it, therapeutic. It's the most therapeutic thing to do now, for me, you
Yeah.
know, and to deal with those emotions, and to have somebody to cry with you, you know. I'm fortunate to have my wife, and you know, she's learning how to deal with my anxiety and how to calm me down, which is amazing. So shout out to her for that. But yeah, it's crying is, I think, is important. And like you said, it's like, nobody's gonna call you a girl, nobody's gonna call you, you know, weak, or you know what I'm saying. You know, I know women who are strong enough to talk about these things more than we are, you know, and I think that makes them so much more stronger than us, you know, in that sense, to talk about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So
But it's just it's crazy.
yeah, man.
It's 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 mind-boggling how we can see so many people fighting through this, like and sometimes we don't even know how to help
No,
them.
not at all. Even through a pandemic, I mean, how do you try to get close to somebody through a pandemic? You know, someone nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah.
You know, I feel for the people who discovered that they had depression this last year in 2020 from being at home. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine. Uh, you know, I had to work through the pandemic. I was able to go outside and you know, continue on with my life somewhat. Um, But I was also, there was a moment where I was stuck in a hotel because I couldn't go home because I didn't want to take this back to my wife, and she goes and visits her family. So my work put me up in a hotel. I'm in healthcare, and that got dark in itself. You know what I mean? Like being in a
Yeah.
hotel room and you're working 12-hour days and you're tired and you're stressed out and you come back and you're in a freaking room, with a bunch of other strangers in a building, like that was dark.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's one of some of my darkest moments of like, those what are they, the shades that just don't let no sunlight in, and you're just like, you're going through it. You know what I'm saying? So that was my pandemic issues, and I can't imagine people who had to do that, who couldn't go to work and had to stay home all day and just struggled with it. So I can't imagine going through that, and I feel for those people.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's tough for them because all they can do is talk to the wall or
Yeah,
talk to themselves because obviously they don't want to
yeah,
open up. But once again, I'm the
yeah.
podcast is here for that. I'm pretty sure there's still people out there that still
Right.
want to
Yeah.
talk.
Give
Give
them a
me a
call.
call. Send
Do
me a
it.
message. Text me. I don't care. I'm not gonna judge you. You can even hit up the
Right.
homie Mikey, and I'm pretty sure
Of
they'll listen
course.
to you.
Of course.
If you want somebody outside your circle, just open up. I don't have to record you. You can
Right.
just call me.
And that's huge. And a lot of people aren't doing that. I think our parents, when they didn't know that they had depression and anxiety because it wasn't like a common, like, the words weren't expressed back then. It was like, it was depression, it was anxiety, but they didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah.
They turned to alcohol and drugs. So I can't imagine our parents like dealing with all that stuff. You know what I mean? And not having anybody to talk to, because like you said, it's like that machismo of like, growing up when they did was a lot tougher than we. You know what I'm saying? I feel like our generation's a little bit better at it's still rough, but I think we're getting better at opening up more, rather than like our dads or our uncles who have had to deal with this and like didn't even know what it was. They just thought they were sad. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now that we,
That's basically what it was. That sad day.
yeah,
Just leave me alone.
yeah,
Cool.
and
And us kids will be like, okay, cool,
right,
bye. I'm gonna go outside. Like,
yeah. And you didn't know what it was. I didn't know what depression was when I was a kid. Like I would see my dad and I just thought he was like just in a bad mood sometimes. And I look back at it now, I'm like, nine. There's a really 9 out of 10 chance that he was probably depressed, and didn't know it, and so he would drink. He would. I would. It was funny. My dad used to like. We used to have this heavy bag in our garage, and you could just hear it while I was playing outside with friends. You just hear the smacking the heavy bag. Just drinking tall cans, and I'm like, man, he was probably going through some like form of depression. But
right.
being growing up in the '90s, my dad was maybe 30s, around 30 around that time. Like, who did he have to talk to? Who did he, because everybody else was my uncles. They're all just the same. So it's like they probably didn't have anybody to talk to themselves. So I
Exactly.
think millennials are the next. I think we have the potential to lead the way of saying, we can be the ones to break that cycle and break that mold. And hey, we're
Yeah.
here. Because as much as they piss me off, Gen Z, they're gonna have it really rough. A lot of them are depressed
Oh God.
on a different level of depression. You know what I'm saying? So I think if us millennials or our Gen X or whatever, we gotta kind of set the tone and just say, hey, like you gotta talk about your feelings.
Yeah. And the worst part with between them is just that they're the ones putting
Yeah,
each other down. They're the ones going at each other, and we're over here looking at them
yeah,
like,
yeah,
seriously,
yeah.
seriously, over a can of soda. You guys are gonna talk so much shit to each other just for a can of soda. Like,
Social
come
media is a
on, like,
motherfucker, dude. Dude,
shit. Who gives a shit what's better,
bro,
Coke or Pepsi? At the end of the day, you're gonna drink what you
bro.
like. At the end of the day,
I
I'm gonna
knew
drink what
I
I like.
was like, I knew I was out of the game. I was on Instagram the other day, and there's an argument about if you wear, we all wear fitted hats, right? Wear fitted hats. That if the
Yeah.
brim underneath the hat is black, you're old. Like, you're old, dude, if you're still wearing black. And I'm like, yo, all my hats have like, I'm like, that's what you kids are worrying about nowadays. Like, they're like, oh, it's gotta be yellow, it's gotta be white or green, or if you're wearing a Dodger hat, it has to be green or white. And I'm like, what?
What?
like, bro, like, I don't look at the brim of my hat when I buy a hat. I'm looking at the logo. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, but like, and the people are in these comments and they're like, they're making fun of me. Like, these kids are making fun of each other for that, you know, or like, they can't imagine the kid going to school and having to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's messed. Like, we used to roast each other in high school, like, but like now it's like, at least when we were young, like in high school, we can go home and kind of like that gets shut off. Now it's like, you see it online,
Yeah.
it's online. You know what I'm saying? It's all, you can go back to it, you can click on it, you can, and it'll mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people are
Yeah.
so, and it sometimes is negative for the dumbest thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can tell your girl you love her on Instagram, and people will just like roast you for that.
Yeah. And be like, oh, so cute. What
Yeah.
did you do now? Like,
I'm
what
like,
the
oh my
fuck?
God, bro. Like, so I feel for these kids, man. Again, they piss me off with a lot of shit that they do, but I feel for them, man, because they really have no escape. You know what I'm saying? All they know is social media, all they know is Instagram and Twitter, and so they don't really shut off ever. You know, so if you're going to
Yeah.
school and you're being bullied, you're going home and you're still being bullied. You know, and
Yeah.
again, nowadays, like, people don't, like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like when we were young, we used to stick up for ourselves, and it would usually, I feel like a lot of my best friends are all people I fought already. I had like got into a fight with a lot of my best friends, and you ended at that. But these kids nowadays, they're just like, they're ruthless, man. You know, so I think if you have a kid who's a teenager, or coming into that, I think figure out ways to, like, a healthy way of shutting off when you get home. Get
Yeah.
get
Get
them
them
off
off
that
that
phone,
phone.
man.
That's what I say. Holy shit.
Please. And I don't have kids, which I'm grateful right now. We are, that's in the future, in the plan, but I can't imagine, dude, like, having to, see your daughter or your son being bullied like that on the internet. It's
Yeah.
one thing at
Yeah.
school, which is still not okay. But again, we were able to come home, but to have to see that online, that doesn't go away until somebody deletes it. And then even then, it's like, it's probably
Yeah.
screenshotted, or it's thrown around. Yeah, and it's
Reposted.
like, and
Yeah.
your child has to, like, live through that. I'm like, man, I can't imagine as a parent that kind of heartbreak to have to go through. You know, for me,
Yeah.
I'm fighting everybody.
And then that's how depression starts for them too. Like they start at a young
Yeah,
age too. It's like,
yeah, it's like, and I know it's a little off topic, but I don't know if you've been following this whole what's her name, Khloe Kardashian thing with the picture that they released. So
no,
yeah,
I
I
stay
tried
away
to
from all
too.
that shit.
I tried to too, 100%, because it's just, but
But I'm
yeah.
gonna
So
look it up now.
they posted a picture of her that was like non-edited, right, in a bikini, and like, it was like, they wasn't supposed to get out, right? It wasn't like, because they always edit all their pictures, right? And they try to make it a
Right.
thing, like, well, it was the beauty standards of everything. And I'm like, you guys, like, one of my favorite comedians, Andrew Schultz, said this. He's like, fuck you guys, because you guys have made women feel like shit for years. And you guys have made people think that this is what beauty is for years, and making them think that plastic surgery is how you're supposed to look, and photo edits, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so for you guys to cry now about it is super, like, sick, and it creates this, like, this depression in young girls and young boys to have to look a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And then when you don't, they're ultimately, hurting their selves mentally. You know what I'm saying? So that whole thing has been mind-boggling to me. It's like, how, you're gonna cry now after everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I can't imagine how many little girls, are looking at your Instagram and like, oh, I have to look like this. So now they're getting plastic surgery at 16. You know, and then when they
Yeah.
get it and they still don't feel a certain way, they still don't feel happy, they're depressed. You know,
Yeah.
I know, and again, for men, we do have to talk about it. I can't imagine what these young girls have to feel like when they see these fake beauty standards. And and it goes not just to young girls, but it goes to like older women. Like, you know, and you know, it makes our wives feel that way. It makes, you know, our family members feel that way. So there's so many things that we can talk about that can lead to depression, and it's just mind boggling. But that reminded me of that. So a little off topic, but
Yeah. No, it's good because
yeah,
it's right. You know, all these women, all these little kids, little girls, they all want to be in
yeah,
that trend,
yeah,
and it's that's all it is. They just want to be all trendy. All of a sudden, you want to look like that, or you want your man to be
yeah.
buff and have this big old beard. Like, but what is that going to do to you at
Right.
the end of the
Yeah.
day?
It just if you know, do what makes you happy. You know. Um.
It might make you happy for a couple of months,
Yeah.
and then
And then
what?
what? You're back to it, and it's just not. You know.
Now, in a couple of months, that trend is gonna go out the window, and it's gonna be like, oh, look, it's
Right.
bald heads and no
Yeah.
beard. Now what? Now what are you gonna do with that one guy that you have? It's
Right.
like,
That bald headed
bye.
dude. Man.
Yeah, it's like
Hey,
dad bods were in for like
couple
what, a
months. Hey,
couple of
that boss
months.
is still in. All right, we still got this. All right. I'm hoping. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all my big dudes out there, man. Y'all rocking it right now. All right.
They big dudes always rock it
Hey,
for
hey,
winter though.
wintertime, summertime, you know what I'm saying? You need a little warmth in the winter, a little shade in the summer, you know what I'm saying? We got you. Big dudes are for the win, you know?
Big dudes always win in the winter. That's
Right?
all I have to say. Like I hate you guys for that, but
You
cool.
see me and then you see you're like, I'm gonna go with the dude that looks warm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
real
he
quick.
seems like he cuddles great.
Other dude looks like he
Right,
steals the blanket.
exactly. Like you gotta be
Mm.
on top of him. I don't wanna be Big Spoon. Shout out to the big dudes out there, and shout out to my little dudes too. You guys are awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh man, Mike, that's crazy. Hey,
For about
we've
an
been
hour,
on
yeah.
it for what, almost?
Good time.
Yeah, that's that was an amazing opening
Yeah,
discussion
thank
we
you,
had
man. I
today.
appreciate you having me.
Oh shoot, It- no, thank you not only just for coming in, but shit, you got me to open. Shoot, I wasn't even gonna do this for a couple of
Hey, you got to
episodes.
keep going, man. You got to keep going, man. And
So eventually, a couple of more episodes, I'll be opening up more and more. But looks like you just opened that window up.
I think. I mean, you know, I hope you continue with it, man. Because like I said, this is amazing, and I'm a fan now, so I'm be definitely sharing and supporting you through this process. And whenever you need somebody to talk, man, I'm here.
Awesome, thank you. And look, this podcast is not just for people that want to open up. Like, there's an episode coming up with one of my buddies, a Canadian buddy of mine, and we just sat down and talked
Yeah.
about gaming. That's basically all we did during. I think we had like an hour or 45-minute episode, and we all we did was talk about gaming. It actually releases tomorrow at
Wow.
9 o'clock in the morning. But like I said, I don't know when this one's gonna be released. I don't even
Right.
know what
Right.
I'm saying tomorrow. But for us, it's
Yeah.
gonna be tomorrow. um, but yeah, it's just come in and let's chat.
Perfect, man. Sure.
Share the podcast, follow the podcast, leave a comment, leave a like. I really don't care. I'm not gonna get mad if you don't follow it. Just listen to it.
Listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Just listen to it. And if you want to come on, hit me up, send me a message, send Mikey a message. Obviously he's gonna be posting it up, but eventually we can get you out here, and like I said, you really don't have to say your name. You
Yeah.
can be anonymous.
That's awesome.
You can be Bugs Bunny,
Right.
all you want. And that's what I'm gonna call you all podcast. But thank you once again for coming in. Um any final words, any final shout outs, any plugs you want to give out? Mike
Man,
is yours
thank
now.
you again for having me, man. I just, you know, I just want to say thank you to my awesome wife, Alexis. I love you. And to my family, thank you guys for everything and the support. And again, just I encourage everybody to reach out to their local drug addict and reach out to them and see how they're doing.
That's right. All right. With that note, y'all have a good night.
Right.
I would see you guys on the next episode.
Later, man.
Have a good one, Mike. Later. Good night.